Friends, I'm Shell. I'm an avid thrifter, curator. I consider myself a connoisseur of loungewear and all things vintage. And today I am bringing you a Reddit post that I think we need to talk about because as a reseller in this vintage community, there's a lot of things that as both a seller and a buyer, people need to be aware of, right? There's scams on both sides, I feel like. And these things are something, especially if you're new to the reselling industry, even if you're new to buying vintage, I think this is something that everybody really needs to be aware of. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this was posted on Reddit. It's not been that long ago, and immediately I had to screenshot it, and I knew I needed to talk about it. Somebody said, "Well, it finally happened to me." So this is in the eBay subreddit. Reddit can be a very icky place, but lately, as I've stayed more on the thrifting community side of it, I'm actually really enjoying it. There are so many wonderful subreddits. If you have a favorite subreddit that's centered around vintage decor or thrifting or anything like that, please drop it in the comments below. If you have your own subreddit that's centered around vintage decor, thrifting, estate sales, things of that nature, please leave it so that I can join. I'll also leave my thrifted versus style subreddit that just has me in it right now below as well, plus some of my favorites. But let's get into this. So it finally happened to me. So this is the point of view of a seller on eBay. So I had heard of this before, and it's happened to friends of mine, where someone will purchase your item on eBay and then claim it was damaged, not as described. Now, a little bit of context here. When you buy something on eBay and it comes broken due to the postal service, UPS, FedEx, we get it, right? Sometimes they just be drop kicking those packages like across the way. But if that happens, that's different, right? Because that's considered damage that can be covered under insurance with different couriers. But when you request a return on eBay and you list it under damaged, not as described, it's a whole different ballgame because it essentially becomes a he said, she said. It's your word against theirs, right? And eBay, 99.999% of the time, it literally just happened to me, sides with the buyer. And there's nothing you can do about it. And in many instances, if you try to fight it, you're going to lose your money and your item. And a lot of times these buyers that are running this scam, item is not described scam, know that they're going to get to keep the unit, whatever that might be, and get their money back. So, like they go on to say, this isn't even a case of damaged in transit. This is a Funko Pop that was completely fine upon shipping, and then the buyer sent photos of rips and tears in the box. They received the item a month ago, and just yesterday chose to start a return claiming not as described. And the two pics they sent are terrible. And it's obvious they either one, already had this damaged pop and wanted one in better condition, or number two, just need the money. So they ripped the box and are now claiming that that's how it arrived. Buyer's remorse is a thing, right? Some of these Funko Pops now, he doesn't go on, sorry, I'm not sure of the gender of this original poster, but the person does go on to discuss what happened here, but they don't really say, the value of this Funko Pop. Now, some of them are extremely rare, and some people are paying hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, for some Funko Pops. And I do want to say, too, that since the buyer waited almost a month, it is highly likely that this money has been withdrawn and has been spent somewhere. Now, I do want to say that that's never an excuse, because if you are selling on eBay, please, if you are a reseller and you're looking to do this even part-time as a side gig type situation, please be mindful of cashing out, especially large, large sales, and just spending the money and not having some sort of reserve, because it can get very sticky very fast if eBay sides with this buyer and you don't have the money available to refund the buyer. eBay is going to refund them, and then eBay is going to attempt to recover those funds from you. Now that can mean automatically charging your bank account that's on file, your debit card that's on file, withholding payouts from other sales to recoup that negative balance, or in some instances suing. Please do your due diligence as a seller. Be protective of yourself. It's smart business, right? So just keep that in mind. But this goes on to say this issue now, I won't be able to sell this one because let's say they accept the return and the buyer's got to send it back. Well, now they're going to get this unit back, and what are they supposed to do with it? Sell it as damaged now? So the value has depleted. So they're going to be out the time. They're going to be out the shipping costs both ways typically. So this has just turned into a mess, right? They do not go on to say exactly what happened here. Many of the comments were urging them to just accept the return, right? Just do not fight back in the messages, which I did. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But do not fight back in the messages and just accept the return so that you get the whatever it is back. I just learned this the hard way. I have sold hundreds of items on this current eBay account that I use for my business. And I just had this happen. So I sold this little item here that I picked up in an estate sale. I actually have two. Now, I do want to tell you that this item is hand painted on porcelain, and I still have one more of another portrait. These are little porcelain discs. They're like the size of like tiny plates. This one's got they're like this size, right? And they're just hand painted portraits. Now there are some knockoffs that exist where it's just printed on like plastic and it's kind of like a replica, if you will. However, these were not. These were over 100 years old, which makes them antique. So 20 plus is vintage, 100 plus is antique. And these were beautifully framed. Just stunning. Even had the year stamped on the back of the frame. I digress. Okay, sorry. I get irritated. But anyways, these had flawless pictures. The description was perfect. And, I sold this one at an extremely fair value because I literally got it for, if I add up everything that I bought at that estate sale, because basically I just got a giant pile together and said, how about $25? And he was like, take it. And so I paid maybe 10 cents for it. Now you'll hear me talk about market value and things like that later, but I priced this probably under market value. Not probably. I know I priced it under market value. I ended up selling it for $60, which is under market value. And I shipped it out immediately. I like to think I'm very good at my shipping. Usually sometimes it's same day or next day. So I shipped it to the buyer on November 24th. It was then out for delivery, and it was delivered on December 1st. So great, right? Sometime later, I'm going through and I notice that I have my very first negative feedback. And nope, sorry, this was not the first. Oh my gosh, we'll get into my first one. Oh, that's a whole other story. But this is my second negative feedback. I only have two. And this one is lovely. Ripoff, advertised as antique, not 100 years old, May the 50s, hand painted. It's printed on porcelain, all plastic. No truth in advertising here, and no proper punctuation either. But I get this feedback. I'm like, what? Because this is a multitude later. Okay. So I'm like, what in the world? Okay. So I'm about to message this buyer because I see this. I'm like, what is going on? And then I get on December 18th, which is the morning that I received the feedback, I also get notification from eBay that a case has been opened, which I'm like, okay. So 17 days later, this person just decided that they've got a problem with this item. Immediately, and I wish I would have screenshot these photos that the buyer sent. The photos were a picture of a computer screen where you could literally see the mouse cursor and not my item. So I immediately reached out to eBay. Now, I did respond immediately because if you do not respond, eBay can step in after a certain amount of time. And 10 times out of 10, if you don't respond, they won't even give you the time of day. They're not going to hear you out, even if you appeal, like you see that I did here on the 20th. They give no shits, okay? They're just going to side with the buyer and move on. But I replied and I said, this item is exactly as advertised. Your photos do not show any proof as to your claims. That's what I said. And I was hoping for eBay to step in and side with me. Poshmark and Mercari are typically pretty good about this, and eBay just shit the bed on it. So I've learned my lesson. Just accept the damn return, and then if I get it back and it's not the same item and I can prove that it's not the same item, I can then file a case against them and get my money back. However, I did this wrong. eBay ultimately sided with them, gave no shits, and gave them their money back, and they got to keep the item because I didn't accept the return. So now they have my antique portrait, and they got it for free. So, moral of the story, right, is just accept the return, okay? Take note of what's happening here. Accept the return. If you feel in your gut like, this is scammy, make sure that you are notating everything, keeping screenshots of everything so that once the item is returned back to you, you can then appeal back to eBay and say, not the same item. This is not how it went out. This is not what is going on. I want my money back now because I'm not going to be able to sell this item. It did not come back to me in the manner as to which it left, or it's a different item. But also, when you are packing an item, let's say you're bubble wrapping and you've got your things, right? Take photos. Take photos with timestamps that this is how this item was packed. Everything is put together appropriately and being shipped. Just cover your ass as much as you can. And if you're a buyer, don't do the scammy shit. Don't do this. Don't do this to people. All I can say is karma's likely to come back and beat your ass. And I hope it does. But anyways, short and sweet today. I love you all. Please like and hit the like button. Definitely subscribe. I'm going to try to do probably 4 videos a week, just different topics. But thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your time with me today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.